problem here within the early church was the same thing, plus the new Christianity movement was in. So here's the Messianic Jews that were believing in Jesus
We may
Christ.
have to
But there
go
were
out
Jews that
every
said
single
he
time
didn't
and
exist, he was a
we can
blasphemer.
probably
So there's
delete the
problems going on
platform
here,
and then
brother.
just put it
It's
back
not
in there.
I set this up on my laptop at home. I didn't authorize it yet on here. So
Okay.
I set it up on here, but I didn't officially authorize this multi-stream, so I think that was the problem.
Gotcha.
Now they do come back within 5 to 6 years toward the
So
understand.
Let me see if I can hear
But as a
Mike
result of
on
Christian
my
background,
phone.
they exist with unbelieving Jews. Mars Hills is involved in today's lesson to a small degree. This was after Mars Hills, so there's a lot taking
that
place.
is different.
And Paul was not someone that let the grass grow under his feet, so to speak.
You might
Paul
want to
was
stop the
busy.
stream.
Even in today's lesson, you see
Oh, he's
Paul
gonna
was
test to see if he can hear
he
it.
did waste
He's
rest.
gonna test. Did you say you're gonna test on YouTube to see if you?
I'm gonna rest a little bit. He went
I'll-
really
I'll go to
more
Facebook
chances
if you
in the
want.
New Testament than not.
Uh,
He expelled all the Jews in AD 49 until his death in AD 54 is when they started coming back. He didn't change his mind. His death did. So once he died, a new regime takes over. Now where do we see that today?
I'm picking up
In politics.
YouTube.
We're seeing it today, right or wrong, agree or not agree. That's the way it works in any society. The government's change when the
Yeah,
leadership
that's what happened
changes,
last week.
the ideas change.
So there's something with the audio there on OBS. It's pulled from the
Yeah, I picked up
churches
Mindy's
that own
Yeah.
themselves. We
That's
have to
what it
look
was
at the
last
history
week,
of the
too.
Gentiles in the scriptures. And quite honestly,
Don't-
sometimes the Gentiles
no,
had a
no, go
stronger
back to that.
faith base
Go back to that.
than the Jews did.
USB.
Were more adamant in their faith. Many of the miracles that Jesus performed was by Gentiles, and I think every occasion he said because of their what? Faith. Why should a Gentile have faith? They were excluded. I mean, if you look at it, they had more of a reason not to be Christians than the Jews because they were excluded because of their race from the blessings of being Jews. The gospel was for the Jews at the beginning, but yet they had enough what? Insight to know that God had a plan even for them. So there's a lot taking place in the New Testament, a lot taking place in the book of Acts as we're looking at today. It says, after this, Paul left Athens. Again, Athens was another city of philosophers. That's where Mars Hills was at. He had reasoned with the people. I like the way the scripture put, he had reasoned with them. Try to talk common sense to them, what they were doing. And then now he went to Berea, and his time in Athens, we talk about Mars Hill, was ridiculed by philosophers. He left behind, and I put this underline, a few new believers. You know what? When you start something new, let's think if you're starting a business and you have a grand opening and nobody shows up. How would that make you feel? Devastated. I guess how Paul felt. I think the early ministers, the disciples, I think what they had to fight during their ministry many times was disappointment, knowing what they had and nobody receiving or accepting what they had. Has to be disheartening. I know for ministers it's disheartening. For if you're trying to win a lost person that rejects your message, it's disheartening. Think about that on a grander scale. This was Paul's life, Paul's mission to save the lost, and yet when he tried to do this, they ridiculed him, they rejected him. But yet, what's it take? It takes a few. You talk about that, the crying prophet, was it Nehemiah? Was Nehemiah the crying prophet because I think he preached 72 years, nobody ever listened to him? Jeremiah. It's kind of sad, isn't it? What would you do after 72 years? Hey, listen, what would you do after a year or two? Much less than 72 years. Now, we talk about faith. I don't know if I think I've got faith, but I don't know if I have faith to that level because I've never had to experience it to that degree, which I'm blessed for. It says here he went to Corinth. I tell you what, I enjoyed studying on this a little bit because the stuff I didn't know about, the history of Corinth. Again, when you talk about the church of Corinth, it was a church full of what? Problems. Just like any other church. The church was new. The church was beginning. The church had different ideas. The people had different ideas. We even see this in today's lesson. Apollos was teaching, but not correctly. Not by any fault of his own, actually, at this point. He didn't know the full gospel as it needed to be preached. Corinth was a seaport city. It was a crossroads of trade. And I tell you why it was a crossroads. The lesson writer had this. if you went around the island of to go from Corinth to I forget what city actually you're going to here, you had to go hundreds of miles. But to go across Corinth, it was 4 miles. Well, I look here, the list writer had this. I would have never known it. It says it